All right, so how does this GitHub education thing really work? So a couple of assumptions. You already have Python installed, you have Visual Studio Code installed, you have GitHub Desktop, you have your GitHub account, you have all of the setup procedure things already done and cleared. So how do we actually use GitHub Education? Well, first, every module is going to have a link to a GitHub repository. Normally, you would click that link in the Blackboard class. In this particular scenario, however, I just have it entered into the clipboard. So open up a new tab, paste that in. And the first time you follow a link like this, you are potentially going to get asked this. I cannot completely set myself up as a student. That is the one flaw in this process. You may or may not see this screen. I'm honestly not entirely sure. But if you do see it, authorize GitHub Classroom. And then once you have authorized GitHub Classroom, you will be able to accept the assignment. So I'm going to click on accept the assignment. And as it points out, once you accept this assignment, you will be granted access to the GitHub education tutorial and then your username here. It's not going to say Test Landguard. That's my username. Repository in the Clark State College BAT Division organization on GitHub. So that you should see that part. Click on accept this assignment. And now it tells you you're ready to go. Assignment repository has been created, and here is the URL. Now, you should be able to automatically see this in GitHub Desktop, but you might want to just go ahead and right-click copy link here while you've got it up, because that is one of the ways that you can view repositories in GitHub Desktop. So now I'm going to switch over to GitHub Desktop. You will not see PyDungeon. Again, that's one of my local things that I can't completely scrub out of the video. Instead, what you'll want to do is make sure that you're signed in. You usually pretty much have to be signed in, but if you go to File Options, you should see yourself signed in here with the account that you want to use for this class. And then you're going to go to File and Clone Repository. Remember, with source code, in order to work with a local copy, you need to clone the remote repository to your local machine. So I'm going to say clone repository. Now, it should usually populate this list. You might have to click the refresh button to be able to see it. Now I can see here it is. Here's that specific assignment. You can also go to URL. This would be more useful if you have an active GitHub account and you've got some stuff in there already. It might be easier to find it this way, but either putting in the URL that you were shown on the web page or by looking at all of your repositories. Again, you may have to refresh to be able to see it. Either way works. Local path is just simply where you're going to put all of these files on your local hard drive system. I'm just going to accept, well, I've got mine set to always put in H source. This will obviously vary depending on your own personal setup. And I'm just going to let it choose the default folder name, which is the folder name of the repository itself. You can put it in whatever folder name you want. The key is that it has to be an empty folder. You cannot put this into a folder that already has stuff in it. So with all that, I'm just going to go ahead and click clone. And given that these are small, shouldn't have any issues. Now, you will probably not see this message here. This is just due to the fact that I do lots of different things on my computer, and where I'm putting this repository has been used by a different Git account before. So that's why I am getting this message here. It is very unlikely that you will see this message. If you do, you can trust these repositories. There's no shenanigans going on with these files, obviously. So if for some reason you do see this message, it is safe to click Trust Repository. And there we go. We're done. We have the files. But how do I see the files? Well, one is you can click on Show in Explorer, and that will automatically open up a Windows Explorer option here that will show the files in question. You can also go to Visual Studio Code. So here we go, we got Visual Studio Code. And so I can tell it to open a folder. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to tell it to open folder. And then I'm already in my source directory, but you would navigate to wherever it is that you downloaded this. Here is the folder that we downloaded it into. Click Select Folder. And there we go. I now have that folder open. There is the tutorial.py file. If I double click on open it up, you will see it. All of these files will have at the top in comments. In Python, comments are done with the hashtag symbol, which you will never hear me refer to it as the hashtag symbol again. It is the pound sign. Thank you very much. But the pound sign is the mark for comments. So that's why all my text here is green, and we'll get more into that obviously as the course continues. But all of the files will have in comments at the top instructions for what it is that you are supposed to do. Make sure you follow these instructions. And in this particular one, the instruction is to remove the comment from the next line. Now, this error will be fixed by the time you see this. I just now noticed that error was there. That error will be fixed by the time you get these files. So remove the pound sign from the next line so that you run this file, it prints hello world. Well, next line, here it is, print hello world. So I delete that. I can then go to run and either start debugging or run without debugging. Either option works here. But again, we'll talk more about these options as we get into the course. You do want to select the Python debugger. You will generally only have to do this once. Tell it yes, it is a Python file. And then you'll see the output down here. And again, all of this will be covered in a different video in slower and more detail. Okay, so we've made the modification. Now, how do I get this back up so that I, the instructor, can see the change? Because at this point, I cannot see your change. This file still only exists on your computer, and I do not want these files uploaded to Blackboard. This might seem like a lot of very unnecessary work. And to be honest, for an intro level programming class, it is kind of unnecessary. You don't need to be using source control for this level of class. But if you want a job in the industry, you need to use source control. You have to use GitHub, or you will most likely be using GitHub or some other version of version control. You have to use this type of software. And so I want you to start getting practice with it now. So this does not exist on the server yet. I'm going to make sure this is saved. I mean, I know it's saved. I don't see the asterisk indicating that it's got file changes on it. It shows me right there that there's unsaved changes. You can either do a Control S. Also, you get a little white circle there indicating that there are unsaved changes. You can either do a Control S to save it, or you can go to File and select Save manually that way. That works too. Again, the key thing is that you don't have a number icon here showing the number of files that have unsaved changes. And this icon right here should be an X, not a circle, if the mouse isn't over it. Those are your indicators that you have not saved your work. So I'm going to save my work. Now we have to go back over to GitHub Desktop. Now GitHub Desktop is going to show some new information. It's going to show you a changelog over here, which you can largely ignore. It's not really relevant for what we're doing. But the key thing is we see changes 1. File changed, tutorial.py. That's what we wanted to see. Now, if you want to give additional details here, You can. GitHub Desktop should automatically fill this in with update tutorial.py. That's fine. If you want to give additional comments here, or like if you're having trouble and you're wanting to submit this, like push it up so that way I can see it to help you out and answer a question, you can put your question in here. Not mandatory at this stage. The key thing is that we have to press this commit to main. We're not done yet. You must click on push origin in order for GitHub Education to see it on the remote servers. If you do not push, I cannot see the changes. It is not submitted until you press push. And now it shows no local changes. You can verify that you have done this by going back to your GitHub account. Oops. Going into the repository. And if you click on the file, it will show you the file. And as I can see, the comment has been removed on line 5. This is what is on the remote server. I can now see it, and I can now grade it. So make sure you go through and do this on the tutorial assignment. Again, the goal here is just simply to remove the comment on line 5 so that line 5 reads print hello world. And then that's it. That's all you got to do. Submit that, push that to make sure you understand how this is going to work for the semester. As always, if you have questions or run into trouble, office hours are posted on Blackboard. And of course, you can email me and ask me questions.